So Tashika has released a much longer and more thorough response to the Dean Withers livestream that effectively exposed her for sexual harassment and just generally being an all-round terrible person. So today I thought we'd give this response a wee look, as well as look at some other sort of tidbits and surrounding information that has happened since then. But before that, be sure to subscribe to the channel, but only if you're like proper cool, because I tested it out and apparently YouTube doesn't actually allow you to subscribe if you're a huge loser who deserves to be bullied. So I say give it a shot and see where you stand in the social hierarchy. For now though, I feel like it's only fair that we have a look at Tashika's response video, because my original one was, you know, pretty scathing. Like, I did not end the video with a favorable opinion on Tashika, so I figure that it's only fair to actually hear her out, like a proper response. She said previously that she wasn't gonna give one because she had like a whole legal team that was involved. I'm guessing that fell through for whatever reason, so it's only fair that we actually listen to her. Before we start though, I probably should say, even if Tashika does manage to disprove the sexual harassment allegations, I don't think that's enough to disprove how terrible of a person she has proven herself to be, in my opinion. Like, I do genuinely believe that the way that she behaves online is unacceptable, and the way that she talks about people who don't align with her every belief is unacceptable. Like, even if people really disagree with you and you believe your opinions to be very, I guess, moral, so people who disagree with you can be deemed immoral by your own standing, that just doesn't give you the authority to tell them to end their life. Which, by the way, it would be one thing if it was like a very rare insult that you used for hyperbolic effect and it was known that you didn't actually mean it. Like, if I were to say something like that, everyone watching would know, oh well, I'm sure he doesn't actually want them to literally commit suicide. But with Tashika, it's like, no, she does. That's what she wants here. Her whole goal in telling people to end their lives is that they end their lives. And for someone so allegedly woke as she is, it's like the total lack of awareness or respect for suicide is baffling. And that is just one aspect, by the way, of the many characteristics that she has shown herself to possess that are morally reprehensible, in my opinion. But go watch my last video if you're confused and you've not seen it for whatever reason. For now though, I'm on her channel here, and we're gonna watch... I've just seen what the video's titled. It's very, very, very enthusiastic and amazing title there. I'm sure this video is not going to be aggressive in the very least. It's going to be a very rational, thought-provoking, sort of calm video where she reasonably explains her side of the story.
Let's have a conversation really quickly. I know I haven't been talking that much, and I even went as so far as to delete the videos about everything after Dean made his video on YouTube. And that is because I was dealing with litigation. I was in talks with an attorney, and one day she looks at me and she goes, "Is this really what you want?" And I go, "Yes, I want him to take this video down. Like, this is completely a misrepresentation of everything that's happened." And she goes, "No. Cases like these are incredibly difficult and they are incredibly emotionally draining. Is this what you want? Take a couple days and figure out what you want and whether or not all of the things that are going to come out is worth it." And I said, "Okay." And I was sitting at my desk and I said, "No, I don't want to do that. I don't want to take Dean to court. I don't care enough to do that. So I'm just going to give you guys everything."
Interesting. Okay, so first of all, who knows if this story is true? I've seen a lot of people on the internet calling bullshit. I personally, I'm not going to immediately disbelieve it, but I'm not going to sit here and act like this absolutely happened either. Maybe parts of it are true and other parts aren't. Maybe the lawyer just said there isn't really a strong enough case here, and she took that as it's emotionally tumultuous or whatever. Who really knows? I don't imagine, because what would they be being sued for? I guess defamation? Like, how emotionally tumultuous could a lawsuit like that be in comparison to the majority of other lawsuits that are out there? Like, what is so special about this one that it will be really emotionally difficult and like draining? They're all pretty draining, I feel. Like, legal processes are always annoying, right? But whatever, right? Fair enough. Like, maybe that's exactly the reason why she didn't want to take it to court, because legal processes are just that annoying usually. But she says that she's going to give us everything now. So this video will contain everything that we need to know, which also means that everything we see in this video will be what the lawyer had to work with before dismissing the case, essentially. Or not dismissing the case, but suggesting that Tashika dismisses the case. So I reckon after this video, we'll have a more accurate depiction of why the case was actually dropped by Tashika. I say dropped, but it never really came into action, so I guess prevented from happening. Like, if the evidence here is really damning and absolutely proves beyond a shadow of a doubt that Tashika is innocent, then absolutely I believe that the lawyer was being completely honest in saying that the only reason you shouldn't do this is because it's emotionally draining and not because you don't really have a case. But if the evidence that she shows here is basically nothing, then either the lawyer was just being nice and letting her down gently, or she's completely lying.
So I'm just going to give you guys everything, and then I'm going to move on. And if they try me, I'm going to tell them to... It's so unfortunate.
Yep, good one. Going to tell them to kill themselves, which is a completely... You know what? It makes sense for the video title, I suppose. But then again, I don't think they have any reason to try you anymore, because as much as you're saying you're going to move on, I don't know. Somehow I doubt that. Like, for some reason, I do believe that this is something that she is going to continue talking about. Maybe not making full videos about, but it is something that she's going to mention a lot. Like, if she's doing live debates especially, there's no way this doesn't get brought up. And when I say brought up, I mean brought up constantly. Are we going to get any semblance of an apology in this video? I'm genuinely curious, because if it's like, look, I didn't sexually harass them, that accusation's false, but I am very sorry to everyone out there with eating disorders who I insulted horrifically by calling her Jack Skellington, because that's the thing I don't think Tashika understands, is like, even if you were done wrong by this person who happens to have an eating disorder, and you insult them or go after them, which is totally fine to do. If they've wronged you, you're allowed to insult them. That makes sense, right? But if you insult the eating disorder specifically, you are then insulting everyone who has that eating disorder, right? Not just the person that you are going after. It's the same way that if, I don't know, if a black person did something shitty to a white guy and then they insulted their race, that doesn't just insult the black person who did something bad, it insults the entire black people. That's why it's not deemed as okay, even if you were done wrong by them. So I do hope we get a little bit of an apology here, especially since it's not going to court now, so you don't need to worry about, I don't know, admitting guilt in one way or another. Because I feel like every good response video, you need to take accountability for what you have done wrong, unless she genuinely believes she has done nothing wrong here at any point, which maybe she really is that delusional, but who knows? We'll give this a watch.
And so expansively that I thought that I would have to take this into legal matters and not just say what happened. This publicized misinterpretation of my character, this painting of me as this predatory Jezebel, sent me into what I can only describe as a dysphoric mania. These statements were either through non-confirmed information stated as facts or facts that were mischaracterized and misrepresented.
I don't think she's predatory by any means. I'm not really sure if that was an accusation that was made either. Predatory, I guess, like predatory as in preying on other people. There was sexual harassment on that one phone call. I'm not sure that makes you a predator, but it does make you someone who was guilty of sexual harassment at one point in their life. And allegedly a bunch of other points, you know, in those phone calls with Dean and Parker, but there's a lot less evidence for those ones. The only one that we have pretty hard evidence for is the one on the phone call with AG. It doesn't make you a predator though. Like, that instance of sexual harassment happening that long ago, I do think as fucked up as it is, it's something that you apologized for at the time. I think the apology was fairly genuine. They seem to take the apology well as well. The issue is that you're now denying it ever happened, which implies that you're not actually sorry about it at all. Because if you were sorry about it, you wouldn't just be in straight denial mode. Now, if we're talking predatory in terms of like children or minors, I don't think there's any evidence to what like that goes for that at all. I mean, sure, there was the alleged 14-year-old on that stream who very well might not have been 14, but even if they were, it's very obvious that she wasn't like trying to elicit some sort of sexual gratification from a potential child. It was just a really fucked up mistake that she made, if it's the worst case scenario and the kid actually was 14 or around that age. Which, even if they weren't, like I said in the original video, that is your responsibility to make sure that they are of legal age before you do the live stream, or at least before they participate in the live stream. I will say, I've been getting some comments saying like, oh, she did actually ask the age of the kid and he didn't actually end up answering, which in my mind makes it worse, because if you ask someone's age and they don't answer, that probably means that they're underage and they know they shouldn't be on the stream. But whatever, maybe I say maybe, she'll definitely address that in this video, so again, we'll hear her out.
But before we get into these allegations, I want to make something very, very clear to my non-black watchers. I don't care what you are. I don't care if you are non-white. My non-black watchers. I will never, ever, ever favor those who are a part of an oppressive class. I will never, ever do that. I will never treat you guys the way you are expected to be treated. I will never do that.
Why? What do you mean the way you are expected to be treated? Like, I feel like most white people in Tashika's audience don't expect to be treated very differently from how they should be treated. And what I mean by that is just, like, normal people. What does she think her white audience expects themselves to be treated as? I don't know, it's just such a confusing statement. And also, when you say non-white people but not black, it's like, do brown people have a history of abusing or oppressing black people? Do the fucking Japanese have a history of oppressing African-American people? Or does she just mean, like, oppressive as in if your race has done anything oppressive in history? Because if that's the case, then pretty much everyone is in that camp. I stopped her in the middle of the sentence, to be fair. I guess we'll hear her out again.
I do not care if you have the hallmarks of marginalized groups. I do not care if you are poor. I do not care if you are queer. I do not care if you are disabled. You are still white and or non-black. I am of the critical belief that black people, especially black people within the United States, hold a unique social ranking of dehumanization. I do not even favor myself a person of color, as I do not even believe that black people hold significant alliances with other people of color because of the ways we have been treated by every other marginalized group in history.
I don't know, man. I feel, yeah, fair enough. Slavery was really fucking bad. Way worse than most people even realize. But how does that justify you not treating I don't know, a disabled Vietnamese person the way that they should be treated, for example? I don't even get what the point is here. I don't care if you're poor, I don't care if you're disabled. What is the end goal that she's trying to get at here?
Because of the ways we have been treated by every other marginalized group in history. I actually refuse to verbally assimilate with those groups, because for some reason that always ends in the erasure of black people and our experiences and how unique those experiences are.
Or she refuses to verbally assimilate with anyone who isn't a black person. Or maybe specifically a black American. Well, she said especially black Americans, so I'm not sure. I don't know if I fall in that camp. Okay, well, if that's the case, I think that is, yeah, I think that's fucking unhinged. Like, you being a part of an oppressed group, I'm sorry, it just does not give you the right to decide not to well, I guess you can. You can choose not to verbally assimilate with anybody who isn't a black American. That's fine, you can do that. But that doesn't mean that I can't think that that's fucking insane. She says that it always ends in a reduction of what has happened to black people over history or something like that. Let me re-listen to that.
I actually refuse to verbally assimilate with those groups, because for some reason that always ends in the erasure of black people and our experiences and how unique those experiences are.
Who the fuck is she talking to? I don't think it does. I don't think it does at all. If every conversation you're having with someone who isn't black ends like that, every single one, then you're the common denominator there. I've had plenty of conversations with non-black people that do not end in the erasure of black history or the erasure of what black people have gone through. It's like, are Irish people not allowed to talk to anyone who isn't Irish because it ends in the erasure of Irish history? No, that was the rule. It was no black people, no Irish people. That was on all the signs and that. The Irish, they were called inside-out Negroes, Irish people were. And black people were called smoked Irish. And that's not even mentioning the horrific way that England treated them. The point I'm making here is that Irish people have endlessly been having their history and their oppression silenced or, I suppose, erased by so many people who aren't educated on the matter. But that doesn't mean that they refuse to talk to people or verbally assimilate with anyone who isn't Irish, in the same way that black people shouldn't refuse to verbally assimilate with anyone who isn't black. It's like, how does education happen at that point? And I know it's not our responsibility to educate people on black history or black oppression, but I don't know. I just think that this is fucking unhinged. If yous are hearing what she's saying here and agree with her, then let me know why. Because to me, it feels like a way of like, I am only accepting opinions from black people because I feel like they're more likely to side with me here. Maybe that's not what it is. And if it's not, then I'm sorry, because that is a bit of a shitty thing for me to say, but that is really what it feels like. I'm not the only one with that opinion either. A lot of people have been, it's all over my For You page, man, people with that opinion.
I am a black woman, therefore I live a life of a unique level of oppression separate from others. If you disagree with that, I don't know what to tell you. Read black history, read black theory, do something. But if you disagree with that, I don't know what you want me to do.
Of course, the oppression that black women face is unique, just like the oppression that every race faces is unique, and in a way, we'll never really be able to understand each other's oppression. Like, currently in America, you can make a very good argument that the race of people, the oppressed class of people that has the most reason to be scared are brown people and Mexican people. And in the same way, those people will never understand what it's like to be black. I'm not going to sit here and say that I understand even a little bit what it's like to be a Mexican in America right now, especially one who isn't technically there legally. Every oppressed class has unique oppression.
I am never, ever going to face my oppressors with respect as a unit. Ever. Now, with that aside, when I said that the things stated in Dean's live were lies, I mean that the ways in which he represented them were a complete mischaracterization and misrepresentation of what happened. Those memos, those Discord screenshots, all of those were indeed real, but they are missing critical context. So let's address the entire AG situation. From Dean's live, you would get the impression that I'm a black woman who is like mentally ill and uses racism to justify her behavior and blah, 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 angry black woman, crazy woman this. That is not true. If I'm angry about something, I have every right to be angry about something. And this specific situation, I definitely do have every right to be angry about. And you have every right to not agree with how I express my anger or what I say when I'm angry. That's you have every right to feel how you feel, the same way that I have every right to feel how I feel. Ways in which these voice memos are represented makes it seem like I was apologizing to AG as a breach of her boundaries. Let me make this clear. That is not what I am apologizing for. I am not in these voice memos apologizing to AG for gooning on the phone with her. I am apologizing to her girlfriend, Jaden, for even doing anything with AG in the first place without her first knowing it was happening. That is what I was apologizing for. When I said I should have asked for your consent, I very much should have asked for your consent, and I'm so sorry that I didn't. I genuinely don't know where the fuck my mind was. I'm really just fucking stupid. And I clearly got entirely too comfortable on that phone call. I am so sorry. I will make sure that does not happen again. I am saying, Jaden, I should have asked for your consent to engage with AG in this manner.
Hang about, but you didn't show the whole voice memo. What about the part where you talked about how you saw the conversation as like one of anatomy? Because that's a pretty incriminating part of the voice memo there that sort of implies that you were doing something anatomy based. Okay, let's actually get the full voice memo and conversation up because she hasn't shown it.
That my behavior on that phone call was fucked up, okay? I genuinely wasn't even thinking of it in like a sexual thing. I had genuinely compartmentalized that entire conversation as like fully like an anatomy conversation. I very much should have asked for your consent, and I am so sorry that I didn't.
You didn't see it as a sexual thing, you saw it as an anatomy-based conversation. But now you're saying that you were only apologizing for having done anything with AG?
I should have asked for your consent to engage with AG in this manner.
Engage with AG in this manner. Maybe they were talking about, like, I don't know, adult parts or something about I don't know what. You have to be fucking specific here. What were you apologizing about? When you say engaging with AG in this manner, what manner? What do you mean here? You said you were gonna tell us everything. That doesn't really sound like everything. And that's not to mention, by the way, we got the text as well. Yeah, look at this note here from Jaden. To reiterate, I don't dislike you. My discomfort with you started when I noticed that I felt spoken over or disregarded in phone calls or conversations. One example is when Allison asked me to share a term I use for underwear, blah, 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 blah. But then this bit is the important part. Another example is not crossing boundaries, but pushing on them feels disrespectful. Like when you started trying to find your G-spot on FaceTime, Allison had expressed that maybe you should figure it out on your own. I was uncomfortable as I felt there was no consent in this situation and what I felt to be this informative masturbation lesson. And then that's where the voice note comes in, where you apologize and say that you should have asked for consent before you did it. But the only time consent is mentioned in the actual message that Jaden sent you is when you were trying to find your G-spot. So I don't know, as much as I wasn't there, so I can't say for sure, I feel like she's lying. Like, it's a very weird thing to lie about a couple of years ago. Why would Jaden just randomly lie about you trying to find your G-spot on FaceTime? It's absolutely a thing that she was trying to do. The voice note is right that she apologizes for it. We have the fucking voice note. How can you can't deny it. I'm sorry, you just can't. If I'm misinterpreting something again, feel free to tell me, but like, I feel like that really is a smoking gun here. She's being told, oh, you were trying to find your G-spot without our consent, and AG even told you should do that on your own, but you kept doing it. And then your first voice message is, I'm really sorry for doing that. I didn't see anything sexual about it. I thought we were having an anatomy-based conversation. I should have asked for consent. I won't do it again. This is like putting 1 + 1 together and getting 2. Like, it's very obvious what happened here.
In the following memos, which I will put in this video, Jaden states that AG agrees with my notion of that conversation.
She is kind of on the same page as you. I know that you said, like, you thought that you were having fun. She is also, at least from what I know, she's also on the same page.
And the fact that it was indeed consensual.
I pinky promise you are not, like, this situation is not a repeat of what happened at the beginning of our relationship. This is fully consensual. You know, I put down my boundaries, and you have respected my boundaries, and Allison has respected my boundaries. at least the boundaries that were listed. You know, like we talked about this before, like I can't get mad at you for something that you didn't know.
That's very obviously her talking about the relationship in general and it turning into like a polyamorous one. I don't know, do you think we're like stupid, or do you think we're just not gonna listen properly? You know, when you play 5 seconds of an 8-minute voice note, which we listened to the entire thing in the last video, by the way, and there's no point where she says at any point, like there's no point where she says, oh yeah, it was totally fine when you tried to find your G-spot on FaceTime. The voice note was mainly just about the relationship in general and how I guess it becoming a 3-way now, for lack of a better word, was consensual. Had nothing to do with the FaceTime call and you trying to find your G-spot.
AG told me that Jaden did not like me. She told me that Jaden was the one who was uncomfortable with the FaceTime call I had with AG, and that AG herself was confused as to why Jaden was uncomfortable. Yet she was uncomfortable nonetheless. Therefore, I apologized. Furthermore, in this conversation, Jaden describes herself to me as a fish that has been dropped into a tank.
And I really appreciate you expressing that, because there's a lot that I've been in the dark about, and I really appreciate you kind of validating that, like, all of this has happened very quickly, and I've had to acclimate very quickly. I feel like a fish that was just thrown into a tank, and I'm trying to have to, like, you know, figure everything out right now. And, you know, there's so many outside stressors as well, but I just want to keep it linear to you and I, and things that affect you and I, or you and Allison, and, you know, the trio there. Of course, like, I do just want there to be, like, a mutual respect, which this conversation is very helpful. And I really do appreciate this. I never expected this from you at all. Like, I didn't expect you to, I don't know, I just kind of want to touch on, like, I also don't have all the answers. That's true. Like you said that earlier, that's true. Her and I are still exploring openness with this, you know, month and all of the shit show crazy fuckery that has happened this month. It's just been, you know, something that we're taking day by day. And, you know, it hasn't been the most fun, but, like, that is outside of you, okay? Like, you are one of, like, the least stressors, I guess. Kind of. Now I'm losing my train of thought, dude.
Because she herself is a monogamous person.
You know, it's so obvious what actually happened here, by the way. And this is why she is apologizing to Jaden and not AG. It's because she treats Jaden like shit. Even in the last video, we covered her prediction. When she was predicting what Dean's livestream would be like, she said at one point that Dean was going to play this voice note and that she didn't actually mean what the contents in the voice note was saying. All she was apologizing for was purely so that she could fuck AG. So according to her, using her own words, everything she says to Jaden during this conversation is just manipulation to get closer to AG and fuck AG. And that is not me extrapolating or making things up. That is exactly what she said. I'll play the clip now.
He's actually specifically going to bring up the time that I apologized to that girl, even when I fully didn't mean it and I was just trying to fuck her girlfriend.
And again, when you read that note here, you can see Jaden is talking about one example when Allison asked me to share a term I use for underwear and I felt judged by your response. That, as well as many other things, clearly paints a picture that during these phone calls, you had a very overt interest in AG because, according to yourself, you wanted to fuck her, but you couldn't give a shit about Jaden, who's the other part of that relationship. So you were obviously treating Jaden like shit the entire time, and she didn't like that very much. Hence this long string of voice messages and conversation that you're having right now. Or not right now, but that you're covering right now. It happened a while ago. And with this thing that you're talking about Jaden being like a monogamous person and being forced to be in this relationship, okay, if anything, that makes... So now it's more obvious now that Jaden's a fucking people pleaser. Which isn't a good thing by any means, but that is what's happening here, right? She's very agreeable, she doesn't want to cause problems, she just sort of goes with the flow. Tashika, however, I think it's fair to say, is not very agreeable and is definitely not a people pleaser. I don't think Jaden has the stomach to express with you how disappointed or uncomfortable she feels by you because you apologized to her so supposedly sincerely. You did a good job sounding sincere when realistically you were just trying to fuck AG, according to yourself. And now that you're painting Jaden out to be this like really agreeable people-pleasing person, it's like, yeah, no wonder she accepted your apology. That's just the type of person that she seems to be. But it doesn't mean that you weren't trying to find your G-spot unconsensually during a FaceTime call. Like, I feel like that much is pretty much set in stone.
Because she herself is a monogamous person. She may not get jealous, she may flirt with other people, but emotionally, in a relationship, she is a monogamous person. She states herself that polyamory or having separate sexual partners was a non-negotiable for AG.
I love AG. And I love you. And that came out weird. I love AG as a person. I love him as a friend. But it seems like, at least from reading this, that there has been more going on. Like the flirting was fun, sex talk was fun, but it seems like there is something beyond even what AG has told me, if I'm reading this correctly.
It was obvious via our entire relationship that she was not always on board with it. AG has a history of being unfaithful. We referenced this in the memos as well.
You guys have told me about a story where, I'm not going to say again, we're like a month into your relationship, that she had done some fuckery. And I'll be damned if I'm a repeat of that.
In the first month of AG and Jaden's relationship, AG cheated on Jaden with another woman.
Can I just say, by the way, I don't think I care if AG cheated on Jaden with another woman. Like, that's not what this is about here. What this is about is, did you touch yourself on a phone call with AG unconsensually? And it seems to me like the answer is yes. And now you're just trying to distract us from that fact by bringing up a bunch of shit that AG has done that was bad, allegedly. Which, yeah, cheating on this fucking yeah, that's bad, for sure. Who knows if it's true or not? I certainly don't know. But ultimately, it's not relevant, is it? Does her being a cheater give you the right of, like, wishing her to starve and waste away? Or calling her Jack Skellington? Or, like, this horrific verbal abuse because of her eating disorder? Does it justify you telling to your Discord group, like, gossiping like a really mean girl behind her back that you want her to fucking die? Even to her face telling her that you want her to die? It fucking doesn't, man. Like, you're just such a nasty person. That's all it comes down to here.
Explicitly state in these memos that I absolutely refuse to be a repeat of something so traumatic for Jaden. In these memos, Jaden had made clear to me that AG values my friendship more than anything.
Another thing too, I just wanted to stop you really quickly. I know I wrote something more, I promise you. Your friendship with Allison is, from my understanding, is most important to her. When I said something more, it just turned into real attraction, where, like, you know, she's expressed, like, I find Tashika hot. Anyway, moving on. So as far as you said, like, is this kind of just a you thing? So from my understanding, Allison and Sam, they don't flirt. Their friendship has blossomed into more of a friendship. So from my understanding, you're the only person that she's actively pursuing or flirting with or sexting with.
And she says that as opposed to, say, someone like AG views me as something more, as someone that they are explicitly attracted to. She says that I am someone that AG is explicitly pursuing, and that because of this, it makes them feel like they are out of the loop. Understandably, because AG has already cheated on her before. And I apologize that it took me so long to notice AG's unfaithfulness so far into our relationship. I recall there was a point where she says, hey, I think we should slow down for a second. Let's stop flirting for a while so I can figure out my feelings. AG, while on a FaceTime with and I, would still make sexual advances towards me using the, like, I don't know what they're called, but, like, they're like the FaceTime things where you can, like, make text bubbles and things like that. She would still use those so she wouldn't have to speak, so Jaden would not hear her talking to me or making sexual advances to me in the other room. And I want to make it clear, I never reciprocated those advances. And her doing that made this entire relationship so confusing to me, because it was clear that AG was not willing to follow her own rules. Now, the context of her not wanting for AG to flirt with me for a while is because AG was obsessed with me. AG would call me every single day, up to 7 times a day.
And that number there is AG. Call you every day up to 7 times a day, and you've shown what, like 3 days here where she calls you more than once? Does that prove that this is like a consistent thing, or does that maybe prove that this happened for 3 days? Which, sure, we can say it happened for 3 days. And who knows what the context is behind these, by the way. I mean, they're not read, so it seems like you answered every single one, which sort of goes against you saying that you never went for any of these advances or entertained her during this, because surely if you weren't entertaining her, you at least the 5th one you wouldn't answer, you know what I mean? But again, this isn't relevant. I don't care if AG liked you. Just because someone likes you, it doesn't mean that you're incapable of sexually harassing them. If someone has a crush on you and you non-consensually find your G-spot on a phone call with them, you are still non-consensually finding your G-spot on a phone call with them. It's not like you've killed anyone. It's not as though you've committed SA. Like, it really is something that can be forgiven and moved on from if you were just honest about it from the start and weren't threatening legal action and getting really, really nasty about it and wishing death upon people. Like, it's very obvious from all of this that this is an incredibly messy relationship and a very, very tricky polyamorous relationship where one person clearly didn't want it to be polyamorous and the other person did. There's maybe a history of cheating that AG might have as well. This is a very, very messy relationship between a lot of very young people. So perhaps an accidental case of sexual harassment can be something that is moved on from if you apologize sincerely and not just to manipulate someone so you can fuck their girlfriend. Also, you say you don't want to repeat the trauma that Jaden went through by getting with AG, but as recent as like a week and a half ago, you are giddily saying with the vitriol that you felt at the time that, little just Jaden know, I was only apologizing to her so I could fuck her girlfriend, and now you're claiming that you were being a nice person who didn't want to give them any more trauma. But it's like, no, you know that AG has this history of cheating, but you're still manipulating Jaden by apologizing to them just so you can fuck their girl. Like, no matter what way you look at it, no matter what's true, it's all just completely abhorrent behavior, and there's a lot of denial, and there's a lot of lies going on as well. As much as I said that it could be moved on from, the first part of moving on from that and I guess accepting apology for that case of sexual harassment is actually apologizing for it and admitting that it happened. Like, the main issue here is all of the lies and all of the disgusting behavior that she has shown alongside it.
To the point where she was barely interacting with her own girlfriend who she lives with. They had an entire argument about this. Don't lie about this, I swear to God. Which is why now fast forward to the conversation that I'm having with Jaden, that this relationship is incredibly isolating to her. I believe even at one point she told me that she has to get permission from AG to be friends with her friends.
It was just, also wanting Allison to have her own autonomy outside of me and not wanting to necessarily push myself into friendships with her friends. I just so happen to, unfortunately, love you and Sam, and like I wanted to pursue that friendship. And so that's kind of a slippery slope for me, where it's like, I'm not sure if I'm able to do this or not, because, Allison's expressing that she wants her own autonomy. I completely agree with that. I think because we live together and because, we are so enmeshed right now, her and I need to separate. That, like, friendships are to be earned. And like, that is, from my perspective, it's what I want. I don't know if Allison's comfortable with me being friends with her friends. I don't want to overstep, so I have to ask her about that. But like, if we were to take Allison out of the equation, what do you want? And I think that's like my biggest concern. Not concern, but also my brain is not working.
She implies that it's some kind of intrusion.
Yeah, I mean, in some polyamorous relationships, both people in the relationship might be uncomfortable with, like, let's say that you're both poly, right? If one party gets with someone, it might be like a bit of a rule where, okay, I've got with this person, you can't get with that person. Like, go find your own people to flirt with and fuck or whatever. I'm pretty sure that is a rule in a lot of these. I'm not saying it's good. Again, like I said before, this is a very, very messy relationship. Like, AG and Jaden probably should not have been dating. I'm pretty comfortable in saying that, like, but it does not mean that she didn't sexually harass her. Once again, it all comes back to that. Which, but I don't even think that's the worst thing she's done, by the way. Like, I honestly think the disgusting language that she used alongside it and after it towards people with eating disorders and everything about the killing yourself and all, I think that's a lot worse than the sexual harassment, because at least that was one case, one time. Whereas everything else is like, it's a very obvious pattern of behavior that's been going on for years now.
This time, Jaden was insecure about her own mobility in this relationship, which is why, again, I reassure her that I will never be a repeat of what happened a month into the relationship. That if at any point I find that I am getting feelings for Allison.
Hang on. So you're saying during this conversation that you will never be a repeat of what happened to Jaden. But then a week and a half ago, you said, I'm only having this conversation so I can fuck AG, and you don't really give a shit about Jaden. So which is it? Do you not want to be a repeat? Or are you falsely apologizing just so you can bypass her and fuck AG? Because it can't be both. Which one is the lie? You decide!
I do not know exactly where these accusations are coming from, but what I do believe is that Jaden's resentment of me in their relationship never went away. And I think AG is trying to cover her ass. I believe that Jaden is a monogamous person who was thrusted into a polyamorous relationship and was uncomfortable with the amount of attention that her partner was giving a third party. I think all of this culminated into her trying to harm my reputation. And AG, the reality is that you cheated on your girlfriend twice. That's why she was uncomfortable, because she knows that you were cheating on her. I think you know you are guilty, and because you know you are guilty of these actions, you are trying to like throw me under the bus to save your own ass both publicly and in your own relationship. I believe the two of you are incredibly codependent. I believe you made this up in order to cover your ass and maliciously try to lessen my credibility as the person who you said would never initiate the sexual interactions in our relationship. Someone that you said on a live stream that I have never crossed your boundaries. You are doing this because you know the truth. Tell Jaden the truth. Tell everyone the truth. This campaign to paint me as a predator, as a Jezebel, as a narcissist, to weaponize my mental health, to call me a liar.
Again, not relevant. You tried to find your G-spot on a phone call without consent. That much has been all but confirmed, in my opinion. Again, genuinely, I really do mean this. If you have conflicting evidence or think that I'm misreading something, then be sure to tell me. Undeniably, this was a very messy relationship, but you had a part to play in that messiness, like. And you admit yourself that you were loving it. Like, AG was obsessed with you, but you were also, you had a big crush on AG. You say it yourself, you really wanted to fuck her. Probably why you answered every FaceTime call that she called you with. I'm not saying that you're obsessed with AG, or you were obsessed with AG, but you absolutely did want to sleep with her. So how can you be surprised that Jaden has this resentment towards you when you very obviously and blatantly treat her like shit, and then said that you wanted her girlfriend to die, and took the absolute piss out of her eating disorder? It's like, yeah, no shit, there's resentment there.
As a predator, as a Jezebel, as a narcissist, to weaponize my mental health, to call me a liar. Which, I want to say, all of this does indeed have a racial and gender significance. It very much does. Me being a black woman is indeed relevant to the way that I am being treated. No one on this planet is intelligent enough to think beyond the white supremacy, the slavery, the harm, the genocide.
I fucking really don't like that. I know she'll hate me saying this, but it's true. She's using her race as a defense mechanism here. Yes, absolutely. We can all acknowledge that black women have a history of being oppressed for being overly aggressive when they're not being overly aggressive, right? They have this reputation. It's a bad stereotype. It's fucking disgusting. There absolutely is a very harmful, there absolutely is a very grim portrayal of black women as, I guess, Jezebelious by nature, and it does need to be stopped, and it is something that should be talked about, and it maybe is even something that should be brought up here. And there's also a very harmful portrayal of black women as like this overly lewd, sexual, sort of predatory type of person, right? That absolutely is a thing that happens as well a lot of the time, and it is something that should be understood, and it is something that not a lot of people understand as well. Or not enough people, right? A lot of people know about this stereotype that's very harmful, but not enough people. However, you are being all those things. You are being incredibly aggressive. You are being incredibly hurtful. And you did sexually harass AG on this phone call. Because what you're doing here, it seems like, oh, black women are unfairly portrayed as pieces of shit by the media. So what I'm going to do is act like a piece of shit. And if people call me out on it, I'm going to say, well, no, you're being racist because you're only saying that because black women have a history of being called out for being pieces of shit. It's like, does she think black people are stupid and that we're all just going to mindlessly circle behind her and like rally behind her and be like, yes, yeah, they're all, don't listen to them, they're all racist. Go tell anorexic people that they should kill themselves and waste away all you want, because that is your God-given right. It's fucking disgusting. I'll never get behind that, ever.
Curated by people who seek to harm me because I know the truth about their character. I have witnessed them in intimate settings, and they want to harm my credibility before I even have the ability to speak. Because I am so open and honest about so many parts of my life, it makes it so that people are just more likely to tell me things about themselves. I have seen all of these people in incredibly intimate settings. I know what they haven't told their partners. I know what they do with their partners. I know things about them that their partners probably don't even know. I know things that their audience doesn't know. And I guess because I am so honest, they think I probably can't keep a secret, so they wager these heinous accusations against me. They do this to try and destroy my credibility before I even get to speak, because I know that in real life, these people are wicked, and I was wicked for ever being associated with them. Posting my reactions to abuse does not justify me getting abused. Posting my reactions to obvious manipulation does not justify manipulating me or manipulating people against me.
I think it's very obvious why the lawyer didn't actually take this case now looking back on it. Like, imagine going to a jury and showing them all the evidence here, which, by the way, in this video we received about, I don't know, 10 screenshots and 5 voice memos, not even 5, 2 voice memos and a bunch of clips from those 2. So that's all the evidence she has, so you show that in court, and then the other side has all of these logs of the apology for sexual harassment, her telling tens of people that she wants them dead, that she loves suicide, she loves it when people she tells to kill themselves actually kill themselves, that she really enjoys when people who suffer from eating disorders waste away and die because of their eating disorder, that she thinks it's completely appropriate to call people who are dying of eating disorders Jack Skellington, that she thinks white queer people should be genocided. It's like, yeah, I really wonder what, I really wonder what side would have won that civil case, mate. Just because you have all these stories about these people that cannot be substantiated through any type of evidence doesn't win a court case. Look, bottom line is, you've come with fuck all receipts. And they've come with plenty of receipts.
Is gaslighting. That is reactive abuse. So sorry if I'm angry sometimes. Sorry if I yell sometimes. Sorry if I'm incredibly candid sometimes. Things that I've been put through on this platform by these malicious people warrants a level of rage. I am not going to sit here with a level of stoicism as if I am not being actively defamed. My believability should not be dictated by my tone. My reaction to years of harm and harassment does not justify the harm that was done to me. It does not justify the claims that are being made against me. It does not justify anything. I could be homophobic, racist, classist, ableist, and none of that would ever justify me being a predator. It would never justify me being a Jezebel. Cut it out.
Yeah, in the same way that AG could be a cheater, they could be racist, they could be all these things. But that doesn't justify you non-consensually trying to find your G-spot on a phone call with her. Like, all the shit that you brought up about the racism, about the cheating and that, it's not relevant. I'm sorry. Like, let's start by acknowledging where you went wrong and what you did that was wrong. And for the record, I'm not even saying that AG is all those things. Like, we don't have any evidence for that either. I'm just being really generous here and taking Tashika's word for it, which even if we do, it means fuck all, really. And this is the thing. I've heard that there are rumblings in the TikTok lives and the Discord about me or whatever. People thinking, oh, he won't understand because he's not been through the shit that Tashika's been through. And it's like, trust me, I've been through things far bigger than this. A lot of you were probably here when I went through a situation somewhat similar to this. There was an entire harassment campaign levied towards me, and my held for review section was just full of the N-word. It was full of like, oh, typical immigrant rapist coming into this country to do it, because of the accusations that were being levied against me with fuck all evidence. I had people find my girlfriend's Instagram account somehow and message them that I was cheating on her and all this shit. It's like, oh, just so you know, your boyfriend's an abuse apologist, and I'm really sorry what you're going through because I know he's doing horrible things. Like, all this shit. And a lot of that was absolutely racially motivated as well, like, no doubt. I'll tell you what I didn't do, ever. I didn't tell anyone to kill themselves. I didn't tell anyone that a genocide should be happening at any point. It's like, when you have these accusations levied against you, very serious fucking accusations, you don't laugh at them, you sit down and you calmly explain why they're wrong. You know, like a reasonable fucking person. You're not expected to be this stoic being, but you're not expected to be this stoic being, sure, but like, nothing will justify the absolute abhorrent hatred that you are using your platform for.
The love of all things good. Cut it out. I'm mean on the internet, not a fucking monster. Critique me for my views. Clutch your pearls as much as you want. That is not a justification for all of these so obviously false claims. You all were lied to. Mischaracterizing the truth is a lie. And finally, I want to talk about this 14-year-old allegation that came up as well. I want to make something very abundantly clear. I do not allow people who are below the age of 18 to join my live streams. I do not allow them on my platform. It is also against TikTok TOS for someone to join a live stream and be a minor, let alone host one. If you want a proof of character and the way that I treat—
This is so like, what year is this? We know that we know people under the age of 18 are on TikTok. We know that they're joining live streams. It's a thing that happens. Like, very fucking common, in fact. I'm not stupid, as much as my analytics won't show it, because my analytics will say that everyone watching this channel is over 18, because everyone who signed in, obviously it's going to be over 18 or whatever. But I'm not dumb. I know there's a lot of 16-year-olds, 17-year-olds watching this video, watching my channel, who lie about their ages when they make the account. So this is horrifically disingenuous. Also, you do not check the ages of everyone who joins your chat because you didn't check that boy's age. They said I'm like 14, and then they say you didn't even ask how old I was. So clearly, you didn't check!
Minors on my live stream, you can look at my lives on YouTube. I drop people who even sound young. I have dropped adults who even sound young. If I get an inkling that a person is a minor, I drop them immediately.
But what if it's not immediately obvious that they're not a minor? They can stay, yeah? Because you don't bother checking. Maybe you do now. I'm sure you do now, but you definitely didn't in that one instance.
Legal accusation. Dean, you know how live streams work. You know how TikTok confirms the age of people. You know how TikTok's algorithm makes sure that people who are underage can't get on a live stream. You watched the clip. That was a grown-ass man. TikTok not only uses facial recognition, it uses voice recognition. It uses their behaviors as recognition of their age. These claims have zero basis. I want to go back to debating.
They have basis. They do have basis. Algorithmically, people who are young are very likely to end up on debate live streams if that is something they have shown an interest in, especially if they lie about their age when they create their account, which I think this whole facial recognition thing that a lot of websites are doing now is very new. It's very possible that that was not a thing that was happening during the time of that specific instance. Now again, I don't know if the guy was actually 14 or not. But the fact is, you didn't check, and there's no amount of denial that'll convince me otherwise.
I like debating, and that's all I want to do. After what happened with Dean and Parker, I don't collab with anyone. I like to do my shit alone. I like to stay in my own niche. I am my own niche. And I just want to debate and play Fortnite with my audience. That's it. That's it, right? You can say that I'm mean. You can say that I have a slick mouth. You can say that I have some problematic views. Okay. Still not a fucking predator.
Okay, I guess final verdict, if you are calling her a pedophile or a predator, yeah, maybe not. I feel like that is, no, not even maybe not. That she's definitely not a pedophile. And I don't think she's a predator either. But I guess that depends on your definition of predator to be, like, if you think that someone who has committed any form of sexual harassment in their life can be deemed a predator, then sure, she's a predator. But I don't think so. That's not my definition. However, if you think that she is a piece of shit, then you can hop on the boat with me, because that's what I believe. But I think that's honestly all I have to say about this video. So again, I mean it more than any other— no, to be fair, I mean it as much as I do in any other video. Let me know if you disagree with anything that I said here, because there's a very strong chance that maybe I'm misinterpreting some form of information. I do want to be held accountable for that. But aside from all that, by the way, I dropped water in between takes on myself. I went to drink it and I dropped it, so like, don't be surprised. This is not my bad, yeah, it's not raining or nothing. But I'll see you in the next one. Bye.